Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. We are studying Swamiji's Karma Yoga. This is 16th class. So we are at the end of the 6th chapter. Non-attachment is complete self-abnegation. That is self-attenuation. So a few ideas are left, or a few thoughts in this chapter. So last class we saw Swamiji explaining the the idea when a person has attained non-attachment, he has conquered, so as to say, every attraction, every influence in the world. Or put it in another way, somebody who is attained to non-attachment is not under the influence of anything in the universe, is not subject to any temptation or any cause, any effect, any ill effect, any. So we can go on extending like that. So so to this idea, Shukadeva was quoted as the exemplified, the supreme example of that non-attachment. We saw the story given. Swamiji illustrated the idea in using the Shuka's idea example. So the boy's mind couldn't be attracted by anything in the world unless he allowed it to affect him. So that is the thing. Unless the person who has attained to this state, unless he wills or he allows, he is free. He is beyond the influences. He is beyond any such slavery. So what follows? If we are genuine karma yogis and wish to train ourselves to the attainment of this state, wherever we may begin, we are sure to end in perfect self-abnegation. And as soon as this seeming self has gone, here self, the lowercase, the egocentric the drives and tendencies. As soon as this seeming self has gone, the whole world, which at first appears to us to be filled with evil, will appear to be heaven itself and full of blessedness. Its very atmosphere will be blessed. Every human face there will be God. Such is the end, that is goal and aim of Karma Yoga, and such is its perfection in practical life. So this is the end which the Karma Yogi attains. Elsewhere, I mean, in the next chapter, Swamiji says how it is the selfishness or all these self-centered drives, tendencies, which actually cause so-called the good, evil, all these distinctions, are at the root of them is the self-centered tendencies and samskaras. So that in the earlier class also it came, and the idea will come again in the next chapter. So we continue with the text. Our various yogas do not conflict with each other. Each of them leads us to the same goal and makes us perfect. Only each has to be strenuously practiced. The whole secret is in practicing. First you have to hear, then think, and then practice. This is true of every yoga. You have first to hear about it and understand what it is. And many things which you do not understand will be made clear to you by constant hearing and thinking. It is hard to understand everything at once. So this is the general structure. In the Upanishad, we see this scheme laid out as, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha. First you hear from whom? The Guru or the person, any who knows the path, who knows the skill. Then think about it, grapple with the problem, grapple with the question, understand it, understand the subtleties. First, usually the person who is not into anything, let us say, it doesn't mean it is yoga or any spiritual path. Even the, let's say, simple, you take some driving. Unless you have tried it, you don't know, the person will not know the subtleties involved, the difficulties involved in various things. Is it not? Unless you try it out, then you get introduced to the very problem itself. Then comes the solution or the skill to maneuver the thing, to handle the thing, or to, so to say, to go beyond, or to get adapt, or so as the case may be, right? So on, so on. So in the spiritual scheme, in our yogas, first it is we have to hear about the means, the path. That also means actually the concept also we have to understand. What does it mean, so-called spiritual progress? Who is going to progress? What does it mean, and what do we want? So all these fundamental concept has to be clear to the person. Then the person has to sit down and then practice. So it is not a case of, let's say, a few days or a few months or even few years. It could be it's a life thing. It could be even more also. So but the thing is, here there is a distinction about the spiritual yoga or these paths. It's not about, let's say, like earlier cases, similar thing had come. Let's say somebody wants to achieve something in the life, let's say some examination, competition, or getting a job. So it's a matter of you prepare, go to the teacher or the person who is adept in it, go through the training, and then put oneself into the put the hard work, train oneself, and then achieve. If you do not succeed, again try, right? So there it ends. But it's not so with the spiritual. It's about like something where the problem itself has to disappear. And so let's say it's a different dimension itself with the spiritual thing, right? So like one of our senior Swami says, see, in the spiritual thing, so more than attaining something, see, first understand, align the life, right? Understand what we are, what we want, etc. So otherwise life goes on like this. So we are born, there is a current of life going, and we just usually people just float down the river of life. So right, is it not? So with the spiritual progress or spiritual living, what the distinction, the main distinction is the life is lived consciously. That we know whatever we do, whatever we refrain from doing, that's all linked to something, some path or some understanding. So there is meaning to every aspect of our spiritual life. So that is the very fundamental difference between an ordinary life and the life lived spiritually, right? Now, so when these yogas are spoken, they have the certain method is laid out, but the goal is same in all of them. That is, so we put in various ways, the moksha or freedom or attaining the self-knowledge or ultimate thing. So all of these things, right? Or at least there is at least the minimum thing is I want to live life meaningfully. At least there should be meaning to the life and everything we do, right? This is the basic thing. So here there was one Swami saying, at least in the spiritual life, there is this thing is true. Whichever may not be true, this thing is true. Whatever we do, so we are doing for something which is linked to the real. So it is not that you will do whether it's going to be lasting or not, it has meaningful, it has usefulness to at least somebody, even that thing. See, all these deeper aspects, deeper questions are raised, right? When this thinking, then this understanding is there. That is one of the distinguishing features for this spiritual life, right? Now, so here, so see, Swami is saying, in each of these yogas, the goal is same, and in all of them, we have to first hear, then think about it, mantavya, think about it, cogitate on it, so that also, and then work it out. So, you see, we'll follow. And then in the Karma Yoga, how does it take the shape? Let's see. The explanation of everything, so continuing the text, the explanation of everything is, after all, in yourself. No one was ever really taught by another. Each of us has to teach himself. The external teacher offers only the suggestion which rouses the internal teacher to work to understand things. Then things will be made clearer to us by our own power of perception and thought, and we shall realize them in our own souls. So here, Swamiji is introducing another major idea, that is that the learning, the external teacher, and the Swamiji uses this term, the internal teacher. So this is to note, you see, the internal teacher. There is many interesting things about this concept. Here it will be too much digression to go into all the things. You see, the learning happens by oneself. The external teacher, whoever, let's say, it need not be even the classroom teacher. It's somebody who's telling something. It could be even the natural phenomena, something we observe. And then something clicks inside and then we learn, oh, this is how it is. Before that, we would have observed, we would have seen, probably perhaps there are some things which are going on every day probably, but we did not realize the significance or the importance, or probably we did not even observe also. So right, like this. So at certain time this clicks and then we get that new knowledge. See, that new knowledge, that means then it was understood, or some deeper aspect was made known to us. Right now the external teacher offers only a suggestion, and the internal teacher works to understand things by our own. See, Swamiji uses the word, by one's own power of perception and thought, we will realize them in our own souls. Realize. So this, and elsewhere Swamiji says, all knowledge is inside, and it's only a matter of rearranging the existing things so that it comes into our conscious plane of understanding, right? So that's true of every knowledge which we acquire in the world, in life, right? So that is why I say the explanation of everything is, after all, in yourself. That means all knowledge is in oneself. So it's only all these work, thought, everything, trying, achieving, hard work, all these things are kind of suggestions, frictions to bring out that thing, right? So these are words which Swamiji uses elsewhere regarding the same topic. Now, continuing the text, and that realization will grow into the intense power of will. First it is feeling, then it becomes willing, and out of that willing comes the tremendous force for work that will go through every vein and nerve and muscle until the whole mass of your body is changed into an instrument of the unselfish yoga of work, and the desired result of perfect self-abnegation and utter unselfishness is duly attained. So here, in the context of Karma Yoga, how it will go about. So Swamiji says, first it is feeling. That is, so we take up and then we have interest in that. We put our Shraddha in that, and then go about practicing it with faith and then with wholehearted dedication. Then comes the willing. Willing means into the practice, and then so as we go up, so our whole life, whole and whole thought, whole mind is into that. So takes up that as if the whole body, whole nerve, everything is pervaded with this idea of doing, everything in the spirit of yoga. Of course, in the spirit of Karma Yoga, where it is not for any selfish. So here again, I have to say, here it just Swamiji has put in a mere, just one sentence, the higher, the stages of yoga. Earlier we have seen, so to start with, you have to start as doing the works as a duty. Let's say there are works at home. Not that Karma Yoga doesn't mean everything is unselfish. So that means should we give up all, let's say, eating and then doing job, these, that. So many basic questions will come. No, we have studied all those concepts already. What is duty? There was whole chapter dedicated to this this very question. It is the Karma Yoga much to do with the attitude, right? With what attitude we look at things, we do things, and then what do we expect in all these things, right? So there are all these things will go on as a duty, not expecting anything. So we have to train ourselves. We have to educate ourselves. Then comes, and definitely there are many things which we do, which we get into, which are not helpful to any higher attainment or any basic necessities of life, right? That the purusharthas, etc. Even there are many things which we do. A person, let's say, somebody who is not educated or not aware of any of these teachings, so what does it go on? Goes on, life goes on. Many things they go on doing. People, we hear sometimes the children going to the extent breaking things when some match was lost. You see, So where do we categorize this thing? Right? Somebody watches a match, some cricket match or football match which is going on. Somebody has lost. Let's say his favorite team has lost. And the person to go, I've heard this thing, just I'm quoting, and what a ridiculous extent. I mean, we can get involved in that which has any little, which has no meaning at all, right? The person goes to the extent to break things out of sheer desperation or frustration, right? See, where does the life going on, right? Now, so there are many aspects which, as one gets into practicing, we will understand, we will realize there are many things which are not necessary to one's own, even for the basic necessities or whatever once this thing is. Let's say it may be job, even at the workplace, many things may not be necessary. Right? There may be many in the last class we quoted the mother's warning, Holy Mother Sharda Devi, the teaching about that she was warning that, telling one of the disciple, oh my son, whenever you go to a work, remember to return as soon as you complete the work, finish the work. In many cases, somebody goes to dig for earthworms that usually which are found at the surface, maybe, and they end up digging too deeper to bring out even the snakes. So that means getting into unnecessary things and then invite trouble. That's what mother meant. So number of cases this goes on in life. So there are all these things will come before us. So there it will be the work to refrain oneself from such things. All these things, right? This is how the practice will go on, and many things in this train. Now this is so these intermediate things, and next comes when the person doesn't need even the ordinary things, then this comes of the higher aspects of the higher stages of the unselfish work of yoga, that is karma yoga, and where probably except a few things, so the person is whole time or major time and energy is gone in somebody, the loka kalyana, or for the benefit of others, not for oneself. So that is how the progress goes on. And then in the higher echelons, we see the person's whole life is a blessing, a life of blessing of the pure unselfish, the works of pure unselfishness. That and he reaches where even a least vasana or selfishness or self-centered tendency is lost or overcome, and the person has attained that perfect self-abnegation and utter unselfishness. What the Swamiji used. That means it's a person has overcome this put in the other the terminology, the kleshas, the samskaras, the vasana, desires, that only causes, right, to work for anything which is for oneself, for the lower considerations, right? So when they are gone, so the person is free. When that is attained, the kleshas are gone, then the avidya is gone, then the illumination is at hand, so that the truth shines forth. That is the thing. So continuing, this attainment does not depend on any dogma or any doctrine or belief. Whether one is Christian or Jew or Gentile, it doesn't matter. Are you unselfish? That is the question. If you are, you will be perfect without reading a single religious book, without going into a single church or temple. So this attainment doesn't depend on any dogma. Like dogma, Swamiji is using the dogma because Swamiji was lecturing in America, where some of the schools of Christianity, they have this the belief of dogma, to believe in something. You have to believe whether it is true or not. So all those things are there. So that is the tradition. To believe in something, or there are these doctrines or these beliefs. So it is nothing about it. This everyone understands, right? The karma yoga, doing do the works with this attitude. This everyone understands. So there is no requirement of believing these dogmas or beliefs, etc. And you probably in this scheme, Swamiji stretches it even and says one need not even actually bow to this deity, that deity. And that's what he says. You need not even enter any temple or church, etc. So it's a question of practice. And then now, so continuing, each one of our yogas is fitted to make man perfect even without the help of other yogas, because they have all the same goal in view. The yogas of work, of wisdom and of devotion are all capable of serving as direct and indirect means for the attainment of moksha. Fools alone say that work and philosophy are different, not the learned. The learned know that though apparently different from each other, they at last lead to the same goal of human perfection. So here Swamiji is echoing the same idea which in the earlier we saw, that each of our yogas, the 4 yogas Swamiji is referring to, the work yoga of action, action meaning the karma yoga, of wisdom, that is jnana yoga, and devotion, bhakti yoga. Of course Raj yoga is not listed here, that is counted also, are all capable of serving as direct or indirect means for attainment of moksha, and they all lead to the same goal. And here Swamiji quotes the Gita's the shloka, that is Sankhya Yogo Prutak Bala Pravadantina Panditaha. That one, that is unlearned people only think that the work or the yoga or the karma yoga and the philosophy, the jnana yoga are different, but not the learned people. Both of them lead to the same goal, and the person gets the result of both when following each of them or any of them. That is the meaning. And this sloka actually Swamiji takes up in the coming chapter what it means. There is a wider implication of this, the yoga of jnana and the yoga of work. Work doesn't purely limit to karma yoga also. We will see that thing now. So with that 6th chapter closes. We start with the next chapter, that is freedom, chapter 7. Here before taking up the proper karma yoga topics, Swamiji introduced 3 topics here. First, what is law? Then the question of the free will. The third one, so what is this freedom in let's say in relation to our life, right? So these 3 concepts Swamiji introduces. Slightly philosophical language is used here, but still quite understandable. Let's see. Chapter 7, freedom. In addition to meaning work, we have stated that psychologically the word karma also implies causation. Any work, any action, any thought that produces an effect is called a karma. So Swamiji referring, we have stated that psychological the word karma also implies causation. Causation means one thing causing the other. So that simply meaning that. So in the very first chapter of Karma Yoga, Swamiji said the word karma, Swamiji explained. So the 2-3 meanings are there. Fundamental, the basic meanings. One, karma also, traditionally in the Hindu tradition, we understand karma to mean some past result, karma phala, right? That is the full term, but sometimes only karma used, but in that sense, that is karma phala. Phala are the results of some actions which have been done in the past, usually the past janmas. In the metaphysical sense, it means the causation, law of karma we use in English, right? That is the one. And the first meaning, of course, is action. Karma means, in technical meaning, action. That is the main meaning in the karma yoga for the word karma. Here, of course, so Swamiji going to touch on what does it mean, the law of causation in the karma yoga context. So, thus the law of karma means the law of causation, of inevitable cause and sequence. Wheresoever there is a cause, there an effect must be produced. This necessity cannot be resisted. And this law of karma, according to our philosophy, is true throughout the whole universe. Here, our philosophy means Indian philosophy. Indian philosophy, there are 6, more than 6 Astika Darshana, and then 2 more Darshanas, meaning philosophical schools of philosophy. So that's what Swamiji referring to. Our philosophy means the Indian philosophies. Now, the 2 things, 2 ideas, number of important ideas keep coming up here. We see the law of karma means the law of causation, of inevitable cause and effect, or sequence. Wherever there is a cause, an effect is sure to come. So there is a cause and there is an effect. So this in the Indian knowledge traditions, this law of causation or the law of karma is one of the very fundamental laws at the root of creation itself. If there is a cause, effect has to follow, and based on this, There are many other cosmic laws are supported based on this, or based on this. Let's say in the Gita and in the not Gita, in the Upanishad we see, in the most probably it is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, because of that the wind flows, because of that meaning the Brahman or the God. Saguna Brahman, of course, meaning the Ishvara, because of out of fear, that is the language used by the Rishi, out of fear the wind blows, out of fear the sun rises, like it goes on. So whole Srishti, indirectly meaning the whole Srishti and the cosmic activity or the movement or the order itself is supported on some of these basic laws, or let's say things, and one of them being law of causation. Swamiji actually indirectly echoes this idea. We'll see. If there is a cause, effect has to follow. Let's say we put a little of curd into a milk and it has to turn into curd, and nobody can stop it, right? So we drop a ball and then it has to fall to the ground. Nobody can stop unless somebody holds it. That's a different thing. So like these number of things. So the idea is being introduced. This we need to understand the idea, and Swamiji is going to make use of this thing and then see how it affects our concept of karma, our activity, our life, the fundamental aspects, right? We will see. First, here it's basically making the idea clear, right? Whatever we see or feel or do, whatever action there is anywhere in the universe, while being the effect of past work on the one hand, becomes on the other a cause in its turn and produces its own effect. So the chain reaction goes on. So this, the cause turning the effect, and effect being cause of some other effect, the action further down the line, right? So this cause, the cyclic cause effect, so much so that this is linked to even the creation itself. In the Hindu tradition, please recall, the creation are so-called projection. The right appropriate term is projection is cyclic. In the other dharmas or religions, there is that one day the creation comes in and another, after some time it will be closed or it will end. So this is the beliefs or the teaching, the stand they have. But in the Vedanta or the Hindu traditions, creation is cyclic. It comes into being, stays for some time, and it gets involved or withdrawn into the first cause, that Brahman, and then again it is projected. So now we will see little later on, karma is at the, and in the Advaita Vedanta they explain, so how does karma work out? Because of the karma actually Srishti comes out also. So even that idea is taken out. Now this cyclic aspect or this chain this chain way of the cause being the effect and the effect turning into cause for the next effect. So this is so pervasive and so fundamental. That is the point I want to stress. Now continuing, it is necessary together with this to consider what is meant by the word law. By law is meant the tendency of a series to repeat itself. When we see one event followed by another, or sometimes happening simultaneously with another, we expect this sequence or coexistence to recur. So just very technical and simple definition for law. Swamiji says, by law is meant a tendency of a series to repeat itself. There is a thing and certain thing happens and certain thing follows. And when then this is, and this series is irresistible, and this is law. So very generic. It can be applied. And many things. Let's say when there is a Agni, smoke has to be there. And if there is smoke is observed, Agni will be there. And it is sure for granted. Sometimes smoke we may not see, but it will be there in a very small measure. So, and in one of our darshanas, that is Nyaya, the logic of the Nyaya darshana, this is a very ordinary or a very popular example used to demonstrate these things, right? Now, when we see one event followed by another or happening simultaneously with another, we expect this sequence or coexistence to recur, and our old logicians, the Nyayikas or the Nyaya school philosophers of the Nyaya school, call this law by the name of Vyapti. According to them, all our ideas of law are due to association. A series of phenomena becomes associated with things in our mind in a sort of invariable order, so that whatever we perceive at any time is immediately referred to other facts in the mind. Any one idea, or according to our philosophy, psychology, any one wave that is produced in the mind stuff, chitta, must always give rise to many similar waves. Okay. So next important idea being introduced. Now this so-called law, this causation, etc. Now what does it say? What is its also? I mean the relation in the mind. Now you see, the Naya is, and this idea probably the propounded or brought out or discovered by these in the Naya school. That is, they put it like this: according to them, all our ideas of law are due to association. A series of phenomena becomes associated with things in our mind in a sort of invariable order. That is, how do we know when there is a smoke and how do we? So it's, see, when we say there is a fire, there will be certainly there will be smoke. Now what do we say? And the smoke and fire both are associated. So we that is how we remember, right? So later on, similar, and Sri Ramakrishna uses this idea: when we think of milk, we cannot but think of whiteness also. When we think of fire, we cannot but think of its power to burn or its heat also, right? See, when we think of one concept, and there are many things which are associated with that. You see, we cannot but use that word associated because they come together. And this mind has this nature. This is the nature of the mind itself. This is in Swami, in one of the books, Swami Ashokananda says, because this is how the mind works. And as soon as the impulse is received in the chitta through any of the senses, out of the 5 senses, we receive any input. Let's say we see a thing, let's say we see one tiger symbol, all the fear, dangers, all these things come, and then immediately next is, how can we save oneself from it? See, this trigger of one thing related, all these related concepts come so briskly, and then even before we think, the body follows. And then, so this is instinctive, of course, because they have been carried on and then followed for many things. Similarly, so we just unknowingly we touch fire or anything which is very hot. Even before we think, out of reflex, the hand would have been withdrawn, is it not? See, so the unconscious mind has worked there. So this association here also, that concept is being introduced, and this is true for many things in the concept, in the domain of law. So what does it mean? So this is the thing. According to them, all our ideas of law are due to association. A series of phenomena becomes associated with things in our mind in a sort of invariable order, so that whatever you perceive at a time immediately get referred to other facts in the mind, so etc., so on and so forth. So related thoughts, related waves come up, they also get awakened. This is the psychological idea of association, and causation is only an aspect of this grand pervasive principle of association. This pervasiveness of association is what is in Sanskrit called Vyapti. In the so this so this association is there, and this law of causation is only a part of it. It's just a so what Swamiji says, Swamiji uses the word, is only an aspect of the grand pervasive principle of association. When there is, we say this gravitation, that, so it's a part of one of the association, right? When, so a thing falling, when a thing is thrown up, it comes down. All these, so we see the one thing, the series of events are associated. Now, see, Swamiji talking at the very fundamental level, and of course, he is going to derive, make some statements about it. Now, background is being drawn, right? Now, continuing the text. In the external world, the idea of law is same as in the internal. The expectation that a particular phenomenon will be followed by another, and that the series will repeat itself. Really speaking, therefore, law doesn't exist in nature. Practically, it is an error to say that gravitation exists in earth, or that there is any law existing objectively anywhere in the nature. See, why? The law and then this association in the mind, why it's so? Because when we say law, it's something which is perceived in the mind. There is some scheme which the universe goes on. Now we perceive the methods, the patterns and the sequences, and we call that law, this, that, etc. Now elsewhere Swamiji said, before the law of gravitation, etc., law of motion, so many things we have got in the science, before they were discovered, were they not present? They were present. Only human, we did not know, or we did not realize there is something, or we did not associate one thing with that, and then call that, and so there is this law, and then this is how it follows. So this knowledge was not discovered earlier, right? So that is the thing. Now you see, really speaking, therefore law doesn't exist in nature objectively. It's a something, it's a knowledge or a pattern which we have, which we understand and which we have arranged in our mind. So that is the thing. Law is the method, the manner in which our mind grasps a series of phenomena. There is a phenomena and we grasp it, and then we understand it, and then so make a human knowledge of it. So that is the the thing. It is all in the mind. Certain phenomena happening one after another are together and followed by the conviction of the regularity of their recurrence, thus enabling our minds to grasp the method of the whole series, constitute what we call law. Right? So this much is clear. Now, so the next topic, that is free will. So with this, no, this topic Swamiji will use and then explain. So called our free will, etc., whether we have or not, what does it mean to have free will or not to have, all these things, right? To meet the next question for consideration is what we mean by law being universal. Our universe is that portion of existence which is characterized by what the Sanskrit psychologists call Desha Kala Nimitta, or what is known to European psychology as space, time and causation. This universe is only a part of infinite existence thrown into a peculiar mold composed of space, time and causation. So usually this space, time, causation, which is the term used in the modern philosophy and psychology, in the Hindu tradition, the Desha, Kala, Nimitta being what is the cause. So these three factors constitute the created Jagat, or the universe. The created mane, the one, in the Vedantic sense, if we say, the Jagat which has come into being, which is perceivable or which is matter, right? Which is not spirit. Now, our universe is that portion of the existence. Here existence being, we Satchit Ananda, we say, the highest, the Nirguna Brahman or the Brahman is called by another term, Sat Chit Ananda. The Sat is translated into English using two terms, existence or being. Two terms are used. Swamiji uses mostly existence throughout the complete verse. Sometimes being also is used. So this is when we say one of them, it may refers to the same ultimate reality is another term used, or the absolute Brahman, or Brahman, Nirguna Brahman also sometimes, or Parabrahman also sometimes used in the Indian languages. So existence here means that thing, right? Vastu is also used usually in the philosophical terms, right? Vastavika, Vastu, right? Our universe is that portion of existence which is characterized by what the Sanskrit psychologists call Desha Kala Nimitta, or what is known to European psychology as space, time, causation. This universe is only a part of the infinite existence. So Brahman is infinite, reality is infinite, God is infinite. So with this thing we know. But now here Swamiji says is a fraction. So that does it mean it is limited? Modern science says, they say it is not known whether the Jagat, the perceivable Jagat, universe is limited or unlimited, meaning infinite or finite is not known. That's what they say. And here Swamiji, in our Gita we have, in this context let me say, Purusha and Prakriti in that 13th chapter says, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi. That is, Purusha and Prakriti understand to be infinite. Of course, as if it is, the shloka seems to say there are two things. No, it is not two things. So we see everywhere God and God's power are not separate. It is only for understanding And for delineating things in the psychology, philosophy, etc., we use two terms to mean two things. But actually, it is the same thing. God and God's powers are not separate. In the Kathamrita, we see Thakur telling, fire and fire's power to burn are not different. It's one thing only. For understanding sake, for explanation sake, we use two different things like that. So it is one thing only. Now when Bhagavan is saying the Purusha and Prakriti, two infinite things, Anadi, Vidya Anadi, Anadi, without end, without being. So, but two terms used. So as if it implies that there are two things. No, it is only one. So elsewhere in the Advaita, they say sometimes, of course, in a relative sense, that even the Kala is infinite, but as Kala, Kala will not be there when there is no, the universe. So what there is no question of Kala at all when there is no creation, is it not? So many these considerations come, will not go into that. Here Swamiji used the term is only a fraction of the infinite. We cannot say whether Swamiji meant it is limited, or it cannot be say it is unlimited also, but Swamiji used this term and also used this language Swamiji uses in the next chapter, in the next para also, but I am just placing it on record here. Okay? So it is only a fraction of the infinite. Of course, probably in a human sense it is used, what we know, what we hear. So our sense, usually including the 14 lokas, etc., is only compared to the infinite. This is something, as far as our knowledge goes, it is finite. At least in that sense, it is meaningful, right? Is thrown into a peculiar mold called space-time causation. So this is actually a philosophical language. The three deciding factors which actually constitute this created Jagat or the projected Jagat. That is these three factors are used in the philosophy, right? In the Darshana Shastra. It necessarily follows that law is possible only within this conditioned universe. Beyond it, there cannot be any law. When we speak of the universe, we only mean that portion of existence which is limited by our mind. The universe of the senses, which we can see, feel, touch, hear, think of, or imagine. This alone is under law. But beyond it, existence cannot be subject to law, because causation doesn't extend beyond the world of our minds. So, Swamiji wants to say something, so then this time-space causation concept is introduced. So, this law is applicable only within the Srishti or the created Jagat. Beyond it, the universe being only a portion of the existence which is limited by our mind. The universe of the senses, which we can, that is of course, which we feel with the Panchendriyas, the five sense organs, and of the mind, which is sometimes termed as a sixth, or it's not primarily categorized as a sense, but we see Antakarana, we use in the Vedanta, right? In the Sanskrit, Antakarana, the internal organ or the internal instrument. We can imagine, right? So for that reason, sometimes it is called also as a Indriya or the sense. Now, this alone is under law. Only this law is possible only where the three in the time-space causation, which the Jagat is. But beyond it, the existence cannot be subject to law, because causation doesn't extend beyond the world of our minds. Because the causation, everything is in the mind, is it not? It's something pertaining to the mind. So beyond that, it is not possible. Anything beyond the range of the mind, our mind and our senses, is not bound by the law of causation, as there is no mental association of things in the region beyond the senses, and no causation without association of ideas. It is only when being or existence gets molded into name and form that it obeys the law of causation and is said to be under the law, because all law has its essence in causation. So, Swamiji now just extending the idea, and then drawing out the implications of this these fundamental thing. Now only in the this basically Swamiji is drawing the background for the free will. So whether it is possible, what does it mean to say whether we have free will or not? So still the background is being drawn. See here. This law of causation extends only, it's something which is pertaining to the mind and the created jagat and what we see, feel, etc. Now, so beyond that, it is not possible. So that much is stated so far. Therefore, we see at once that there cannot be any law, any such thing as free will. The very words are contradiction. Because will is what we know, will is what we know, and everything that we know is within our universe, and everything within our universe is molded by the conditions of space time causation. Everything that we know or can possibly know must be subject to causation, and that which obeys the law of causation cannot be free. It is acted upon by other agents and becomes a cause in its turn. Now, see, having drawn the background, so Swamiji came to the conclusion that, so with this background, with this understanding, how is free will possible? Freedom is not possible within the created Jagat. When that is the case, how can we have free will? Right? Simply put, this is the thing. Now, so to read out Swamiji's words only, it is only when being or existence or the Satchidananda or the the unconditioned whatever. See, these are names used, right? What is beyond the thing, beyond the universe? We of course certain names are ultimate reality is used in the philosophy. We call in the Indian Darshana Shastras and Shastras, we use Satchidananda or Brahman. So these things are used. Now, when being or existence gets molded into name and form, that means when the creation comes, it obeys the laws of causation and is said to be under the law, because all law has its essence in causation. Therefore, we see at once that there cannot be any such a thing as free will, because nothing is free in the universe. So how can there be free will? So will, and now something, next point you see, the very words are contradiction, because will is what we know. Now, and so will is what we know. So will being a mental function, right? So anything is which is a function of the mental of the mind is perceivable. At least it may not be perceivable for the ordinary minds, but for a pure mind, will is perceivable. So when that being the case, it is a mental thing, and it is an object. It becomes an object of knowledge. All these things. So, and everything that we know is within the universe. And everything within our universe is molded by the condition of space-time causation. Now, so when this being the case, how can it be free, right? So this is many angles of discussion are used to explain or prove or disprove this freedom of the will, right? So this is here, Swamiji has used this line of argument. Okay? Continuing. Everything that we know or possibly know must subject to causation, etc. Now, continuing. But that which has become converted into the will, which was not the will before, but which, when it fell into the mold of space-time causation, became converted into the human will, is free. And when this will gets out of this mold of space-time causation, it will be free again. From freedom it comes and becomes molded into this bondage, and it gets out and goes back into freedom again. Now, Swamiji uses the term here, that which has become the converted into the will. Now, that which has come, of course, now here, so it calls out what is that, right? So, we can, in the simple language, we can say it is the God himself, or the gods, as in, let's say we take some of the, if not it is Advaita Vedanta, if we take Vishishta Advaita, other Vedanta, we say God's fraction of a God, which actually constitute the spark in the, of course, even these words are also in the Upanishad, the spark, each individual jiva is a spark of the infinite fire, meaning actually it's a fraction of the amsha of the Bhagavan or the Ishvara or God, right? Now, that which beyond this Jagat, of course the God, it got converted into this free will, and which will be bound here in the mold of space-time causation. When it gets out, this jiva, when it gets out, it will be free again. So that is the thing. That which got involved is free. That means the God is free, but within the mold, this thing is not free. So the jiva elsewhere, just to connect, as a jiva or the body, mind are not free. So we have the person involves the trichotomy, that is the body is there, the sthula portion or the sthula aspect, then there is the mind and then senses, etc., which are subtle, the sukshma sharira, and then the karana, etc., karana sharira, and then the atma, right? Atma, so everyone, the inner core is Atma only for the living being. Atma is free. When we speak of one living being, Atma is also there at the basis, as the background, or the core of the being, right? And then there is the outer coatings, the Pancha Koshas. We use, let's say, Pancha Kosha of the Upanishad terminology, or the three Shariras. But the Shariras are not free. But the inner core is free. But actually, but that knowledge of the inner core is not in the conscious, not conscious. We are not conscious of that nature or that inner core. So we do not feel that, but we only, our drishti, as the Upanishad speaks, our drishti, our vision, or our whole drive is towards only these things, the senses, and then the external, the Katha Upanishad says, as if the Lord has turned the life or the senses towards this thing, to the towards the objects of senses, and made him forget the original nature, as if, again, so, right? See the interesting, so many interesting things. So coming back, the Swamiji says, as Atma, even now we are free, but only because we have involved with this, we have been attached, or we have involved with these senses and then the mind and everything within this, and because we have involved and we have gotten identified, and now it is as the whole understanding and the whole life is as if we are this only. That is, we are body, we are, part of we are mind itself. Even this knowledge also is not there. Life goes on, right? We do this thing, we do works that way, this way. When there is pain, we cater to that. When there is hunger, we eat, and then there is sleep. And so these have become routine things, and then life goes on like that. Now the real person, probably, so that aspect is forgotten itself. Completely almost, and we do not even that knowledge is not there. There is something which I have forgotten. Even that knowledge is not there. So some of these points come now. Actually, Swamiji introduced them, right? So that's how it is. So as a Atma, even now, the person, we are free. But because we have identified, so it's a life, our whole drishti is mixed up. What the term used by Shankaracharya in his Vasha, we have got mixed up. Our drishti, this thing is got mixed up with these things, and then now nothing, everything is lost. So we think something is going on. It's like this, right? So these are, see the term, very interesting term it is. We have our life, we have drishti, something we have got mixed up in this. See, the term is chosen by the Shankaracharya. It looks like an ordinary term. See, it's only but it's still, the right is still reserved if we want. And I think one of our Ramana Maharshi used to say, but at any time the person has the choice to withdraw and then go towards freedom. And then at any time we have this choice to decide whether to continue this or perpetuate this the life of bondage, or choose and then turn our drishti, our life, towards that which takes us towards freedom, takes us towards higher thing or illumination. And so use whichever language, right? So anytime we have this choice, we can make this thing, any human being. Of course, those who are, at the intermediate levels of development or spiritual evolution, these thoughts even may have not even make sense to them, right? So that's okay. And so they have to go through the experience, learn, and then get, so what Swamiji sometimes uses a very strict language, blows. Get blows and learn the lessons of life. Get that experience and grow and then understand. So that knowledge has to come. That sense of justice has to grow. Sense of justice. That is the basis for all the morality, all the virtues, the sense of justice, right? All this sensitiveness has to come. So next comes all these discrimination, all these things. And then, of course, next comes the Jagrata of the actually human, the divine nature. So that is caring, and then paying attention, giving attention, importance to the external jagat also, not just, otherwise the person who are in the lower lungs of this, the evolution, they are so insensitive to the external thing. External, as earlier Swamiji used the term, the world for me, world is for my enjoyment. So that's how the life will be going on in those levels, right? But then the thing comes, but there are people as important as me. They are also people like me with feelings, with this thing, their own goals and their own life. So we have to respect them. See, so this these are the starting things to when the life terms and then awakens. Now, continuing, the question has been raised as to from whom this universe comes, in whom it rests, and to whom it goes. And the answer has been given that from freedom it comes, in bondage it rests, and goes back into freedom again. This is, of course, a Upanishadic mantra. Brahman, or God being freedom. So that is the language used. Freedom also, actually, in one of the mantras of the Upanishad, freedom is the term used to refer to God or the thing. See, after all, end of the day, God is a term we have used to refer to, right? Or Brahman also. Is it not? But the thing is, whatever name we use, right? So freedom is another time. And Swamiji uses Abhi, the fearlessness is another time which the person attains fearlessness. This also is used. But we usually use the term moksha, freedom, realizing the self or the God. But there are some mantras in the Upanishad which say the person attains to fearlessness. This term is also used, right? Now, from freedom it comes and stays in, and in the freedom it is it rests and then goes back into freedom. So, that meaning, and the God or the Brahman. So, when we speak of man as no other than that infinite being which is manifesting itself, we mean that only one very small part thereof is man. This body and this mind which we see are only one part of the whole, only one spot of the infinite being. So, when we speak of man as none other than infinite being which is manifesting, we mean that it's only a small part. So again, now if we deeply consider as a Atma, in the keeping Advaita Vedanta as a reference, it is not, when we say it is a fraction, it is the mind and the body are taken into consideration, not the Atma. Atma is one, undivided, right? So, when we speak of man, it's as being the infinite being, only manifestation is part, but as Atma, as spirit, it is infinite only. This whole universe is only one speck of the whole infinite, of the infinite being, and all our laws, our bondages, our joys and our sorrows, our happinesses and our expectations are only within this small universe. All our progression and digression are within its small compass. So here also, again the term is used, this whole universe is only one speck of the infinite being. This is an echo of one of the Upanishadic mantra. Jagat itself is only in the Purusha Suktam we see a symbolic language where the world is only, the Jagat is only a 1/4 of the being. The 3/4 are above, meaning not conditioned or not the Jagat. It's a symbolic language. It doesn't mean that quarter is the universe. It cannot measure. Can we measure the infinite? It's not possible. The definition says it is unmeasured, right? When there is no any dimension or any this thing is there, any attribute. So what way we measure? No, there is nothing. So the very concept itself is inconceivable there. So, but again, these are all symbolic things, right? So Swamiji is just echoing some of the mantras here. When we say this also is true, the universe is, or the Jagat is only a fraction. In the Gita we have, it's only a bindu. Bhagavan uses the word, it's even more, that it's just a bindu of the infinite, right? So we mean that only a very small part thereof is the man. This body mind which we see are only part of the whole, which only one part of the infinite being. This whole universe is only one speck. And all our joys, sorrows, all these things, all about activities, achievements, everything, and including the 14 lokas, Chaturbhuja, Chaturdasha Bhuvanani, we use that. Everything is included in this. And whatever these going the Jarma Chakra, going to the lower regions, going to the higher regions after the death, and then Punarjanma, all these things, everything, this the whole Jarma Chakra is just within this sphere of created Jagat, and that itself is a small thing. So, you see how childish it is to expect a continuation of this universe, the creation of our minds, and to expect to go to heaven, which after all must mean only a repetition of this world that we know. You see at once that it is an impossible and childish desire to make the whole of infinite existence conform to limited and conditioned existence, which we know. So when so basically it's drawing a parallel. When this is the condition, philosophically put, this is the condition or the nature of life here. The life in the higher regions also similar, and how it will be foolish to consider condition. Like they basically cutting some of these ideas. In earlier days, there was this ignorance, so many things which people, ordinary people used to be taught about, so that just to induce them to into doing good works or the right ways of living, etc. And of course, there were some schools which actually believed in that you do these good works, charitable things, and then go to heaven. There you can have a better life, all these things. Even in other religions also, even quite ordinary thing, descriptions or the conceptions are there about higher life and heaven, all these things. So Swamiji continues this thing and then draws the conclusions. Now we will see, time up today. We'll continue in next. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat.